Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful day. I'm pleased to welcome several community partners from whom you'll hear later on. And I'm just so pleased that 4 years ago, as a Howard County councilman, I co-sponsored CB9 or Council Bill 9 legislation that would protect undocumented immigrants in Howard County from discrimination by county employees. This legislation was important to me to help protect many of our neighbors and friends who live in constant fear of being detained and deported, while simply just working to support their families. This bill did not extend to the federal contract our Department of Corrections had with ICE and was eventually vetoed at the executive level, but protecting and advocating for immigrants continued to be a priority. Since becoming county executive, we've had many thoughtful conversations and passionate engagement with advocates and attorneys surrounding the Department of Corrections housing ICE detainees. As I've stated since December 2018, it has always been our policy to revisit and reevaluate this contract, which Howard County has had since 1995. We should always recognize our duty of care for individuals in our custody and strive to meet the highest standards for all persons detained in or committed to the detention center, including our ICE detainees. While it is true that Howard County does not currently participate and has never participated in the 287G program, like in some other jurisdictions, during our 25 years of having this contract, we agree that the way immigration has been weaponized at the federal level in recent years has been unacceptable. In the wake of national news about the conditions and treatment of ICE detainees under the Trump administration, it's understandable that our concerned and compassionate advocacy groups do not support contractual relationships with ICE. Additionally, during ongoing discussions with our community, immigration attorneys raised concerns that their clients would be shipped out of state if the contract ended, making it more difficult to access legal rights and much farther for family to visit. Just over a year ago, when members of our community began their request for Howard County to end the contract, my office began meeting with and continued open dialogue, education, communication regarding their concerns. We held several meetings here in our office, as well as organized a visit and tour of our detention facility. Throughout our discussions and collaborations with CASA and other stakeholders, our goal was to ensure the policy regarding the ICE contract with the detention center in Howard County addressed community concerns about justice and fairness while balancing the need to keep the safety of our community a top priority. Under the contract with ICE, the detainees at the detention center generally have been convicted of or charged with serious crimes. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we further reduced our intake of detainees to ensure that those with minor offenses were not housed by our detention center and to keep our inmate population low and safely spaced out. In September of 2020, we adjusted our contract to only accept detainees who have been convicted of a crime of violence as defined by Maryland Criminal Law Code, annotated section 14-101, ensuring that those with minor offenses were not housed at our facilities. Additionally, The updated policy stipulated that county employees may not coordinate with ICE for the purpose of enforcing civil immigration violations, something that we already did in practice but wanted to encode in law. These changes had a definitive impact on the number of ICE detainees housed in Howard County. From 2017 to 2018, the average number of ICE detainees housed by the Department of Corrections was approximately 100. As of March 23rd, there are now 8 ICE detainees in our detention center. A position we've maintained was detainees experienced better conditions in the Howard County Detention Center than in many other federal detention centers around the country run by the Trump administration. And they're closer to their lawyers and families. In November of last year, we were encouraged by an incoming Biden administration, and I wrote to the Biden-Harris transition team emphasizing a need for changes to ICE and their current operations in the country. In December 2020, I proudly signed the Liberty Act, sponsored by Councilmember Dr. Opal Jones and supported by a supermajority of the County Council, which was similar to our CB9 legislation that I originally sponsored as a council member. The Liberty Act prevents county employees from asking about the immigration status of residents, discriminating based on immigration status, and requiring that certain information related to citizenship be kept confidential in Howard County. After 2 months of the Biden administration and with key officials in place, including the recently confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security, Alexander Mayorkas, the federal government has begun making clear adjustments and commitments to addressing ICE policies and immigration. Early last week, we met with CASA and other advocates to discuss progress at the federal level, alleviating some of our previous concerns about the rights of detainees being housed in other centers around the country. Also, FERN will be providing each detainee with a consultation on their legal rights and representation. At this moment, we feel more confident in the conditions and treatment of detainees and their legal rights in federal custody moving forward as compared to previous years. Which is why on Friday, March 19th, my administration gave notice to ICE that we will be terminating our contract to house federal ICE detainees at the Howard County Detention Center. I want to reiterate my continued thanks and appreciation to our Department of Corrections for their vigilance to maintain public safety through the care and compassion for the inmates they house. I also want to thank our community partners and advocates who we've been in constant discussions with as we've continued to reevaluate this contract over the last 2 years. We will always welcome respectful and civil dialogue with people who are working to uphold Howard County's shared values of diversity and inclusion. We continue to stand with the immigrants in our community. As always, we will keep working toward the same goal of ensuring the safety of our community, our businesses, and our residents. And I thank you. And now, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Gustavo Torres, Executive Director of CASA.
Buenos días. Good morning. So thank you very much for being here. This is a very, very historical moment for our communities. Es un momento histórico para nuestras comunidades. My name is Gustavo Torres, and I am the Executive Director of CASA. Mi nombre es Gustavo Torres y soy el Director Ejecutivo de CASA. CASA applaud the County Executive Board for his leadership in ending the Intergovernmental Services Agreement between Howard County Correction Department and ICE. This is an important step toward reducing detention and deportations in our county and in our state. Today, we celebrate an important milestone in Howard County, where people have a triumph over profit. No longer will our county be degraded by contractual agreement with ICE, an agency with history of civil and human rights abuses. Budgets are moral documents, and our county budget this year will reflect the values of our communities. Our country is at a crossroad right now in immigration. Today, in Howard County, we are sending a message that immigrants are welcome here, and that we will not play a role in detention and deportations of immigrants. We are called our state legislators and Governor Hogan to take similar action by passing the Dignity, No Detention, and Trust Act bills to ensure that immigrants are not only welcome right here in our county, but through the state. Over the last 2 years, Howard County has made it clear that this contract did not reflect our values. Dozens of organizations, immigrants are not immigrants, come together to send a very strong message and say, this is not our values. We welcome the immigrant community. We believe that is so very important that finally we say to ICE, we are not welcome in our county in the way how you have been abused the immigrant neighbors and communities. So today, we celebrate as we did when we passed the Liberty Action in the County Council. We terminate this contract together. That is a victory of all of us. The county executive listened to our communities. The county executive believed that is the right thing to do, and we are celebrating this today. So it's time to turn our page and to say, welcome immigrants to this home. Bienvenidos a Howard County. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Lori Liskin, and I am speaking on behalf of the Howard County Coalition for Immigrant Justice. Jen has asked me to spell my name. It's Laurieliskin. And again, it's the Howard County Coalition for Immigrant Justice. Along with other community activists, we have worked hard to end Howard County's collaboration with ICE. So we are very, very pleased that County Executive Ball and his team are terminating Howard County's contract with ICE and ending the county's role in enforcing unjust federal immigration policies. Howard County has contracted with ICE for years under both Republican and Democratic leadership. Changing this policy is the right thing to do. So thank you, Executive Ball. Thank you. The measure of any society is how well it treats its most vulnerable members. We all must work together to make Howard County an inclusive and supportive environment for every resident, whether they speak English or Swahili or Spanish, and whether they come from Canada or El Salvador or Uganda. Immigrants take enormous risks to come to the United States, often fleeing violence and economic hardship. They bring with them a commitment to work hard for a better life and a cultural diversity that enriches everyone in our community. Once the contract is finally ended, we can look forward to a new chapter in Howard County and in Maryland. The Howard County Council has already passed the Liberty Act. The Maryland House of Delegates has passed the Dignity Not Detention Act, and we hope the Senate will follow, as well as passing the Trust Act. Nationwide, members of Congress are calling on President Biden to end both public and private detention centers. So these successes mean that fewer men and women will live in fear of racial profiling, deportation, and family separation. These threats are very real as we witness increasing attacks on immigrants, particularly immigrants of Asian origin, in Maryland and throughout the country. With that in mind, we call on County Executive Ball to work with ICE to release the few remaining detainees to their families and into the community if possible, and if not, to facilities nearby. The Howard County Coalition would like to thank Councilwoman Liz Walsh, who has been a tireless advocate for immigrant rights. Thanks are due as well to members of the Howard County General Assembly delegation for their work to end state and county collaboration with ICE. Finally, it's important to acknowledge the many community groups who have worked long and hard to make this day possible. We are incredibly proud that Howard County is ending this contract, and in so doing is standing up for every one of its residents. The county is also honoring its own stated commitment to eradicate discrimination, increase equal opportunity, and protect and promote human rights. So today is a really great day. We are honored to be here and to celebrate this huge win for Howard County. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Thais Moreira. I'm a resident of Howard County, and I'm a board member of Conexiones and Inlays, two Latino organizations here in the county. But today I'm going to be speaking on behalf of Leslie Salgado. Leslie could not be here today, but I'm proud to stand here and read her speech to you all. So here it goes. My name is Leslie Salgado. I'm the chair of Friends of Latin American, a grassroots all-volunteer organization based on Howard County that has been advocating for just U.S. policy with Latin American for the last 35 years. We know that policies of war and intervention cause the displacement of people, not just from Latin America, but from all over the world. We are a member organization of the Howard County Coalition for Immigrant Justice. On their behalf, I want to thank County Executive Calvin Ball for listening to us. We started as a group of residents from a few organizations calling for an end to the Howard County contract with ICE in the summer of 2019. Since then, we grew the coalition that is now supported by 22 organizations, representing close to 10,000 Howard County residents. We want all people in our community to be treated with respect and to live without fear of being criminalized and denying services. I know hard work people in our community who, because of their immigration status, are afraid to seek assistance from the police or from other government agencies. I also know of a family whose children had been afraid to go to school after their father was detained for being undocumented. Ending the contract with ICE is a step in the right direction that will reduce the existing fears in our immigrant communities. However, we know that we need to continue to be vigilant to end white supremacy and hate against anyone in our community. Our differences should continue to enrich us and make us stronger, not divide us. Organizations that need to be recognized for their contribution in the coalition: ACLU, Chinese American Network for Diversity and Opportunity, Columbia Jewish Congregation, Conexiones, Friends Committee on Immigration and Refugees, Howard County Board of Rabbis, Indivisible Howard County, Jews United for Justice, Our Revolution, Unitary Universalist Congregation of Columbia, Young Socialist Movement. We are elated to see our county finally ending the contract to collaborate with ICE. Organizing works. We must always work collectively to make our community and our world more just for all. Thank you.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. My name is Mike Mitchell. I am the CEO of FERN. FERN is an organization that for the past 4 decades has been devoted to the intersection of advocacy, policy, and practice. Today, we stand before you to thank the county executive for making the announcement that we at FERN will be representing those detainees in legal representation. In 1882, this country signed the Chinese Exclusion Act. And when that act was signed, it put into policy discrimination against Asians. They couldn't become citizens. They couldn't come into the United States. They couldn't even have legal residency. And in doing that, they tried to keep people out. Now, what has been happening over the past 4 years is a movement to push people out. FERN has been proud to be at the forefront of protecting immigrants by providing legal representation, by providing social services, and providing any support that we can to make sure that those immigrants have agency in our community, in Howard County and beyond. So we are really blessed to be here today with the county executive and advocates, because FERN has always been opposed to detention. But where we've been opposed to detention, we've also realized that national policy has also meant at times we have to advocate and represent those who are held in detention under a federal policy. And so we stand here today arm in arm with our brothers and sisters who have been advocating, and arm in arm with our immigrant friends who have been in detention, so that we can continue to do an even better job representing them and bringing justice to this community. Thank you.
Thank you to all our speakers. We'll now take any questions from the media. Amy?
Okay, great. Yeah, I had a couple of questions. First of all, when does the current contract formally end with ICE?
So the first question is, when does the current contract formally end with ICE?
So we had to give ICE notice. They have, I believe, 60 days to end the contract and work through next steps with the current detainees.
And do you have any idea what happens next?
We're going to continue. The question was what happens next for those 8 current detainees. We're going to continue working with Fern to help ensure legal representation. And depending upon how that goes, they will likely go to other facilities or even hopefully be released.
Okay, and on that thread, you had said this conversation is about addressing community concerns about justice and fairness while keeping the safety of our community a top priority. So going forward in Howard County, if there is an incident where there is concerns of a violent criminal act, what happens in that case now in Howard County?
So the question was concerns about justice and fairness need to be addressed per what I said earlier, and that if there are future concerns about a violent criminal act, what happens in Howard County? What should always happen when there are concerns about a violent criminal act, the authorities should appropriately apply the rule of law. And right now, as has been the case, ICE is a federal entity. And we have not, as a county, been involved in the transport of ICE. It's been private contractors, and they will probably continue to move forward. But my hope is that under a Biden and Harris administration, they will begin to interject more justice, more fairness. However, we do need to keep our community safe, and doesn't matter what somebody's immigration status is. If someone is a potentially violent offender, they should be applied to the appropriate laws.
Okay, so there will, it sounds like, need to be some sort of transport agreement made to be able to facilitate with these federal facilities. Is that my understanding?
No, I think what I'm saying is that ICE will operate separate from what Howard County does. They have and they will continue. Today, we are ending the contract in our detention center. That is not going to impact what violent criminals, how they're prosecuted or dealt with by the legal authorities.
So if there is an instance where there's a violent criminal offense involving an undocumented immigrant, would they just then be part of the general population at the detention center?
So the question was, if there's an incident dealing with a violent criminal offense by an undocumented immigrant, would they be part of the general population? They would likely go through the same process that they've been going through if ICE were to pick them up, or if whatever authority in the jurisdiction that was able to get them, they would go through that same process.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ball, there was another incident yesterday where a lady was jogging of Asian descent, and she was punched in the face randomly in Clarksville. We're seeing more and more of this. How do you address this to the residents of Howard County and their safety?
Question was, there was an incident yesterday about a jogger of Asian descent being accosted and punched in the face. How do we address this? We oppose hate, we oppose violence, we oppose discrimination. We already have our authorities investigating and working with the victim, and we will seek, as we would any perpetrator who seeks to inflict violence, harm, or terrorism in our community, of anybody. We do not allow that here in Howard County, and we will stand up for all of our residents.
Thank you so much. This concludes our press conference.